In front of me is the rear panel from my Rover 420 GSI that I had about 4 years ago. This piece of burnt plastic is the reason why I don't enjoy cars as much as I used to do. Just a few years ago, a car like this, Rover 420 GSI, was worth £500 or £600, and that's because a few years ago this had become quite a rare car. Indeed, most of the R8s were starting to go up in value just a little bit, and that's why I decided that I really needed to get one, and I did. My red 420 GSI on a J plate in 1992, and I paid £265 for it. Very cheap indeed, because it was on eBay and it wasn't particularly well described. Anyway, it was tatty, it was a bit rusty around the edges, it was red, it had paint that was really badly fading. It wasn't a very good example, and for many it would have been basically just a car that scraped an MOT and is on its last legs. But I, of course, was absolutely chuffed to bits with it. I loved driving it. I loved just being in it. I loved that smell that the R8s have, that pencil craney kind of smell. And it had all of that. And the M Series 2-litre engine as well. Possibly my favourite engine in a Rover. I thought this was possibly the last chance I would ever get of having a 420 GSI. And with that, there was no plan whatsoever of actually selling this car. It was going to be just a keeper. My own special bit of nostalgia, because I had one before. I had one about 15 years before and I absolutely loved the thing. So this car was pretty much irreplaceable. Not valuable, but definitely irreplaceable. I thought it was worth about £850 at the time. Of course, current values would see it going quite a bit more than that, and I knew that's what was going to happen. And then, of course, one day I woke up with a note through the door from the fire brigade saying that we found your car. And obviously I didn't know that it needed to be found. There was two gentlemen that broke into it, tried to steal it, but didn't managed to roll it off down the hill, presumably with the steering lock smashed off, and just set fire to it. My presumption is that stealing cars for drug money, to pay off drug debts, to fund another bag of scum tranquilizer. As you may imagine, I was mildly upset by this, because it was a car that I intended on keeping, and it was a car that I considered to be pretty much irreplaceable. And I knew that I was going to get nothing out of it. I was going to get no compensation whatsoever, and I didn't, and I'll tell you why. First of all, there was the recovery of the car to deal with. It was taken, set fire to, fire brigade come along, put the fire out, and then FAM, a big company that works with the police, had come along with a recovery truck and stuck it on the back of their truck and put it into a compound. Then, because they had the registration of the car, they put a note through the door saying that they found the car. What was really irritating about this was that the car was only about 200 metres away from where it was stolen, and I had a recovery truck parked right outside their house, and if they'd have looked on the registration they'd have seen that was my vehicle as well, and I could very easily have just picked the car up and taken it away myself if they'd just knocked on the door and told me. The last thing I would have wanted, obviously, was some filthy scrote stealing my car. But why? Why did the authorities choose to just remove it and then contact me? I'll tell you why. So they could charge a great bloody extortionate fee. Like I said, my truck parked right outside. I could have just gone and winched the thing on, brought it down to the yard and retrieved off of it whatever was left. Instead, I ended up having to go on the phone to FAM to find out what to do. And it was simple. Well, you pay £250 for us to release the vehicle. £250 for them to come and collect it, when I could have just done it myself. Annoying, eh? Annoying indeed. I'm actually surprised, come to think of it, I was allowed to keep this number plate. It was only because I went down the road and saw this lad sweeping up, and I spotted this, and I just picked it up and had a bit of a moan. I'm surprised Fam didn't get in contact and say, oh, I believe you've got our number plate, that's our property. So that is my first proper gripe about this. Fam, FAM and the police, are they working together to make money off of the back of people that become unfortunate? On my chair here I have a newspaper article from that particular day. 28th of August. Rare vintage car. I mean, that was annoying to start with. That's journalists for you. I did speak to this chap. It was a retro car. It wasn't even a classic at the time, particularly. Getting classic now. So where you got the word vintage from, I've got no idea, but I found that quite embarrassing. So the choice was either pay the £250 or don't, and we just keep the car. So obviously that's what I did, because I didn't know whether there was anything on this car that was actually retrievable or not. And they wouldn't show me photos. I couldn't go and see it unless I paid for it. So that's been on my mind quite a bit, because the back end was obviously burnt for the number plate to be like that. But was the front? Was the engine still intact? Maybe that could still have been used, but they wouldn't give me any information. Those M series engines are really sought after. That would have been well worthwhile saving for the engine had it been okay, but I don't know. And we're not finished there, of course, because next I had to contact my insurance company. And my insurance company wanted to know all about it. I had to spend ages talking to my insurance company. And have a guess how much I got from my insurance for that particular car. I don't even have an answer for that, because my insurance includes a £500 excess. £500, which is obviously more than I paid for the car. I valued the car at about £850 at the time, and I thought if I've got to pay £500 before they'll pay anything out, then even at best they're going to pay £850, which means I'll get £350. And that didn't really seem worth it, because obviously that would have a massive impact on my following year's insurance. So far, my driving career is 30 years, which is a substantial amount of time, and a substantial amount of time to never have ever even made a claim. No one's ever made a claim against me. I've had a full no claims the whole time I could possibly have one, and it's never yet, because I have a trader's policy these days. That means it's going to be expensive, and the area that I used to live in was one of the highest insurance groups in the entire UK. So £1,900 was considered not too bad. How much would that have gone up to if I'd have made a claim probably of £350 from my insurance company just to get a payback? My concern was, of course, £1,900 with full no claims. Suddenly I've got no claims and going to be paying £3,000, and instantly it's going to be a big mistake. And not just for that first year, for probably the following 4 or 5 years, or maybe even 6 when you get your full no claims back. So I chose to go down the total loss route of no car, no money, no compensation, and basically just deal with it. But it's changed. It's changed the way I think about my car. In one way, it helped me appreciate further cars like Nigel, which at the time I had no idea existed, because of their simplicity and the fact that they're not really worth anything at all, that nobody's really going to be interested in stealing them, and even if they did, I wouldn't have really been all that bothered. But then, of course, I had the opportunity to get another R8 from my friend Turp, who supplied me with a 216 GTI. This car was cheap, very cheap in fact, because he didn't really want it, but he just acquired it and he wanted to offload it, so I bought it. Then I spent quite a long time making visual improvements, because when it first turned up here it looked like a right tatty mess, but a few months later it looked really rather nice, due to my special elbow grease that I seem to have quite a lot of sometimes. However, my ownership of this car was somewhat spoilt by the fact of my previous R8 and its demise, and I could never really feel completely relaxed with it. So I'd take it out, we'd have a day out in it, I'd enjoy driving it, and then I'd bring it back here and put it away. every time. Very, very rarely did it spend a night outside. And this became the situation with all of the other subsequent Rovers that I owned afterwards, that I had a real soft spot for, that I felt I would never get a decent return on my insurance company should I need it. And it really has changed the way I think. Eric here is a very, very heavily disguised, quite nice car. And Brett Anderson is, to a rather large degree, my dream car. The colour's right, it's got the right engine, it's got the right body shape. I've never had a Tourer before. It's got the right interior, and it's just wonderful. So far, it's only spent one night outside, and I couldn't relax all night. First thing I did when I woke up in the morning was have a look outside to make sure nobody crashed into it or broken something off of it. So now I have this wonderful R8, and I just can't enjoy it because of that, because of other people, because of other people. What a weird situation.